Hello, everyone, and welcome to the European Masters Road Trip. My name, as always, is Rob Ghostly Dreams Price, and we've still got Usheen BP Malloy joining us from Shanghai, but we've got a very special guest today. Chips is joining us to talk all things LFL. And Chips, comment allez-vous?
Thank you guys for inviting me. I'm really fine actually. I'm glad to be able to talk about LFL for a wider audience.
Fantastic. And I mean, definitely one of the stronger regions, at least from what we can see coming in towards the European Masters. And we've had a lot of people, including Broken Shard, who've been on the show, who've been hyping up LDLC and the entirety of LFL, thinking that this could be the region that takes the entire thing.
I was going to say, you got to give them their proper title. Reigning champions
True.
of the European Masters. Got to give them their proper due diligence. So, a lot of the expectations are high for the LFL. What do you think? What do you think about the league as a whole so far? Its strengths, its weaknesses? What are the kind of identity of the French league, in your opinion, Chips?
Well, actually, we got a lot of different team. I wouldn't say that there is a proper style for LFL. Usually when it comes to minor leagues, teams tend to play more aggressively than in major leagues. I would say maybe it's less the case in season 9, but it was really the case for the seasons before. But actually, the good thing in LFL is that we have a lot of different teams with different styles. We got some teams like MCES, which is more maybe macro oriented and with a really clean play style, I would say. And we got teams like AAA with some crazy drafts, crazy stuff, and they just go all in every time on every fight. So, and in between, we have teams like, for example, the teams that dominated the LFL were so LDLC, as you mentioned them, Misfits, and let's say Vitality Bee. So, for example, LDLC is more like a control team with a really good mid game, a really control plays around Nashor, whereas a team like Vitality Bee, for example, is, I mean, they kind of lack in the mid game, but for the early game, they may be the best team in LFL. Usually, they push some really crazy plays with their mid jungle, so Skins and Seiken, which I hope one day we'll see in LEC together. But so that's it. So we got really different teams with really different play styles.
Yeah, because I was
So,
looking at.
you're.
Sorry, go on, Oshin.
Sorry, Rob, go on ahead. You go
I
ahead.
was going to say,
Now I have to be insisting on this.
I was loving watching some of it because I remember getting messages, and especially for some of the crazier picks like AAA, where it's like, oh yeah, we've got Veigar Yumi bot lane, and there's an Aurelion Sol being picked up, and it's like, wait, what? It was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing for AAA, actually, they were one of my favorite team during the year because, as you said, they pulled some crazy things. But I mean, it worked out better during spring split than during summer when they kind of collapsed at finding the right way to play their aggressive style. So unfortunately, they didn't have the best summer split, but well, they they still kept their identity.
As well, like, I wanted to look towards, you guys have got your representatives locked in, of course, LDLC and Team Vitality B coming in to the European Masters. Got plenty of time between now and, of course, that tournament starting off. And I wanted to say, are you? It's kind of an interesting question, of course, but are you happy with these representatives? Do you feel like they can, kind of do justice to the LFL this split to continue the legacy?
I would say that actually those two teams are I mean, it it could not be the best two teams. I mean, with an upset or this kind of things, it can always happen. But I would say that actually LDLC and Vitality B are the two best teams for France. The I mean, the unfortunate event for the LFL was the wall Misfits lineup going to LEC. So of course for Misfits it was a downgrade because we were all expecting a final between LDLC and Misfits Premiere actually, but it did not happen because I mean they took some players at the very last moment and they tried to bring something together, but it didn't work out that well actually. So well, Misfits was kind of destroyed for the good of LEC. But I would say if they, I mean, if the LEC team didn't collapse that much and if the Misfits Premier team stayed the way it was, we should have sent Misfits Premier and LDLC, I think, to the European Masters. So I like the Vitality Bee team, but maybe it's less strong than the previous Misfits Premier team. So I would say I'm happy, but looking at when you look at the start of the split, it would have been a different representative for France, at least for Vitality B versus Mrs. Premier. LDLC was expected whatsoever, but about Vitality B, I mean they are good, and I think they are the third best team during the split, and now because of the collapse of Mrs. Premier, they are the second best team. So I'm quite happy, and as I told you, I think those two teams have different play styles. So we have two different weapons, you know. Vitality B being the really early game teams with crazy plays around mid jungle, Seiken and Skins. Those two guys are really skilled actually, and honestly, when it comes to Vitality B early games, you just have to think about those two guys. Skins on Lee Sin is really crazy, is really good. Seiken actually, he can play some control mages like Azir, for example, but he can also bring some picks like Atrox mid, some maybe some assassin, you know. So those two guys
He had the
can bring
talent
a
as
lot
well,
of
didn't he?
crazy things.
He had talent as
What do
well.
you
I
say?
think he had talent in the finals, I think,
Yeah,
as well, didn't he?
yeah,
Yeah, that was
yeah,
a weird
yeah.
one.
There was a talent. Yeah, there was a talent. Actually, I mean, Seiken is a really. I mean, he got a wide champion pool, and he can bring a lot of things to the table. You know, when he played in LEC, when Jizuke was, I mean, I think he was ill actually. He brought some rice, for an example. So yeah, the guy can play. The guy can play a lot of things, from split pushing champs to team fight champs. And Skins, actually, it's more like Lee Sin, Elise, Rek'Sai, Olaf, this kind of picks, you know, which can bring a lot of aggression for early game. And about LDLC, as I told you before, the team is more like controlled in the mid game. They can be really aggressive in early game, but I would not say that this is the main strength of the team. They just play really well in the mid game. I think macro-wise, they are one of the best team in European Meister, in my opinion.
For Team LDLC, you know, of course, Misfits Premier were the team that did win EU Masters Spring 2019. Fantastic achievement from them, all the way
Yep.
from the play-ins straight up into the final. It was a great experience. But on the other side of it, the number one seed, Team LDLC, they didn't have a great EU Masters Spring. They went 2-1 in groups, and then they were knocked straight away out in the quarterfinals. Are they looking for a little bit more of a redemption now? Because they were very hyped going into spring as well.
Yeah, it's true. And you know, it's kind of the same destiny as Rogue actually, Rogue Academy. I mean, everyone was expecting them to be at the top of the European Masters during spring. From our side, we were expecting a final between LDLC and Rogue. Finally, it didn't happen. I mean, Rogue didn't even make it out of groups. And about LDLC, yeah, they collapsed during the quarterfinals, I think. So yeah, it was bad. It was bad, and it's really strange that those two teams, which were really dominating their their respective leagues kind of collapsed during spring. I can't really explain why. Maybe for LDLC, it was a problem of, they took Irit, their top laner. He's a Korean guy, so he had to learn to play and to communicate in English. And I think it was okay for the final in France because LDLC was just too good, and Irit brought some crazy performances. I mean, individual performances on Atrox and this kind of stuff. But maybe it was because of the honeymoon effect, And during the European Masters, they had some troubles communicating well together, so they had to perfect everything. And I think actually they did during this summer split. So yeah, for LDLC it was kind of a deception, but Mrs. Premiere was our really good surprise, because during the split they had the tendency to play, to be shaky during early mid game, and maybe to go for too crazy plays, actually too many crazy plays, and sometimes it just backfired for them. But they really managed to bring everything well together during the European Masters. So it was a really big surprise for us to see them perform that well, and to see them evolve to the final, and to take it, I would say really easy actually. But for LDLC, I would say it was an accident, and we should see them really strong at these European Masters. I had the opportunity to talk with Steelbag, with Joko, with Eika, all the French guy from the LDLC team, and they told me that actually, European Masters was a mistake. The spring was a mistake for them, and maybe they felt a bit overconfident going into their matches. This plus the problem of communications with Irit, I think it just led to the results we know now. But I think it should be different for this summer split.
I kind of feel like looking at some of the teams, because we've had it a couple of times now in European Masters where these teams that are really good go in and they just mess up, they just flub, they nobody really knows what happens to them. And I kind of start to wonder if it's a case of these teams that are going in are used to a certain style of play from their home region. So say it's like the French way of playing and their own kind of regional meta that develops. And then when they get to the higher level of play where it's, there's all these different messes of styles and compositions and everything that are coming in, if they get a bit caught off guard because they're used to, say, a more slower early game because that's the way that their home region plays, and suddenly these controlling style of games just get tossed out the window because you're being hit from all angles with super amounts of aggression, or whether it's, they play a very slower paced game and you can't really find your angle to get in. And it's always, it's a question that's kind of been on my mind for a little while, is it a case of these teams really are amazing but haven't been pressured in that style of play before?
Well, I mean, it's for sure, playing against teams that you are not used to play against during European Masters, and looking at the format of the competition, you have not that many matches, So one mistake can be big actually during European Masters, and actually, I would love to see a format where we have more matches, maybe during group stage or more best of five, it will be cool actually. But this format can bring some upsets actually. So yeah, for sure, playing teams that they are not used to play against, it can put them off guard actually. But as I told you, we have a lot of different play styles in LFL, and it's not all about early game aggression or passive early game, then doing some macro stuff during the mid game. So I think LDLC had the opportunity to fight against good early game teams, for example, Triple A, as I told you, or Vitality Bee. They are the teams that usually go crazy in early game. MCOS, for example, they are the more controlled team, which can challenge LDLC during the mid game, for example, and around some really good draws with a lot of wave clear, a lot of controls, a lot of shield, this kind of stuff. So I would say LDLC had the opportunity to play against a lot of play style in France. So I think they are used to play against everything, you know. But the thing is, maybe they are not used to play against all the best teams in the other leagues. But still, I mean, the thing is, I don't know which teams they can scream against. For example, during the Spring Split, I know that LDLC were playing some LEC teams during scrims. Duke is a coach of Splice actually, and he's one of my best friends. And he told me a lot about LDLC because they liked and they used to scrim them during Spring Split. And he was telling me that the team actually could play in LEC and they will be quite okay, maybe challenging the last places for playoff, you know. So LDLC has played a lot of teams actually, but you know, I think going into the spring split, actually the team was too confident. It's one of the big characteristics, for example, of Joko and Steelback, because they came from LEC last year, LCS EU actually, it was not LEC. They are really confident about their style, the quality of their plays, and their understanding and knowledge about the game. So I think the problem was more being overconfident and having a recent change about the lineup than being not used to play against other play styles.
It a bit more seriously, not as overconfident, because everyone was kind of hyping them up last time. They're like, all right, we screwed up once, we're not going to screw up again. Is there any region or team in particular that you're kind of, I wouldn't say afraid, but you're kind of like a bit kind of, I hope we avoid them for a little while so that we can get the good results coming in? Is there any region or team like that?
Well, actually, so I don't have I don't have a point of view on every league in EU because I can't watch everything. And but from what I know, I would say Spain is not a big deal actually. I think the last off season between season 8 and season 9. We saw a lot of their players going to LEC for Mad Lions, for example. So I don't think Spain is a really big deal actually, but maybe I could be wrong. You know, going into European Masters, you never know. But I don't think Spain is a big deal. But I think, for example, Fnatic Rising can be a really tough opponent for French teams. And I would say the team in Germany are really good. It kind of surprised me because during the spring they were not that dangerous, but actually I think Big is quite good. So wait, who is going into European Masters?
And Big Mouse
Yeah.
Sports and Big.
Yeah, and Mousesports, yeah. So I know a bit about Big. Their top laner is White Knight. That's it. He used to play. He used to play in LCS EU before. So yeah, I think Big and Fnatic Rising could be tough opponents, and maybe Rogue actually. Maybe Rogue can also be a good opponent. So I would say that this is two teams from LFL and those two German team and the Fnatic Rising team. I think. And Rogue, and maybe Rogue. I think those teams should be the favorites actually going into this European Masters.
Obviously, you know, you've given us kind of almost a full quarterfinals lineup as such.
Yeah.
And something that I would be very curious to know as well is, you know, obviously we know the format is only one best of one round robin in the group stages, which isn't a lot of games, and we've talked about that a little bit. Is it scary coming from a region that has such high expectations, like France, which is such a massively strong region, is it scary having kind of so few games that one mess up, one bad read can literally mean, well, we don't go through now because we played Fnatic Rising and we lost against the Portuguese representative? Is that a bit scary?
Of course it is. I would say that the problem actually, I mean, I like the idea of European Masters, the fact that they bring together all the best teams of the regional leagues. I really like the idea of the tournament, but I still think the format is kind of lackluster actually. But I mean, you could argue that it can bring some upsets, and it's true, But I still think that the main purpose of a tournament should be to showcase the best teams in the best format. But still, I mean, upsets are a part of competition. So, but I would prefer a best of 5 because the thing is, during best of 3, you end up losing the first game. It was kind of an upset. Let's say you got cheese or something like that, and then your mental can collapse, and you got wrecked during the second game. Then that's it, and because you knew that you were on the edge, losing the first game, you can lose the whole thing in another game. So I, I don't like that much best of 3 for playoff games, and also for, I mean, the teams that could complain the most, I think, about the group stage being just best of one game between each team, is Rogue actually. Looking at the last split, I I mean, I would have really liked to see them going into playoff because they were really they were a really hype team actually. So yeah, I tend to think that the format actually of the playoff and of the group stage is too short. But I know there is some problem of schedule for European Master. You have to be between the main leagues and the international competitions, so it's not that easy to do actually. But I would really love to see all those players having a better format to show their talents. And yes, of course, it can be frightening to go into these matches and to think that one single loss can mean a lot. And even if you are a big favorite, you can be down from just one little loss that you didn't expect. So I would prefer the format to go to something like with more matches. I mean, I would like to have more matches to be sure that we have the best team in the world regional leagues going into the top 4, top 6, top 8.
Well, like that's been we've consistently brought this up with almost every single region, and of course the one thing that everyone has been screaming at us is more games, more time. Of course, finding the kind of right scheduling for that. I'm not a tournament organizer. I'm not exactly 100% sure how you make that happen, but of course, obviously all we want is more games. And coming from kind of we know exactly who's going through from the French side. It's going to be Team Vitality B and of course LDLC. You've mentioned a couple of players on their rosters as well. Is there one standout player on each of these teams that you're kind of like, this is the star player? And like almost like Leader was for Misfits Premiere in the last split. He was the player everyone went like, oh my god, like he was insane. Have these teams got that, or is it more of a team effort?
I would say that actually, okay. So let's talk about Vitality first. For Vitality, there is, I mean, the team is playing well together, and they got a really good early games. But I think the core of the team is really the mid and jungle relationship actually. Skins is playing in the jungle, and Second is playing on the mid lane. I think this is the core of the team, and this is where everything happen. When Vitality is playing, at least for the early game, because usually at the top lane, Shemek is of a sacrificial player. He just plays picks for the team, and he don't get a lot of ganks actually, but he's really experienced, so he can manage to be on his own actually. So I would say for Vitality Bee, you just have to you have to check about the mid lane and the jungle plays, and I would say maybe especially jungle. Skins is a really good player. I can remember casting him 2 or 3 years ago, and he was bringing some crazy plays. Actually, some plays that you could see in the major leagues for Lee Sin. And I saw the guy and I was like, whoa, this guy is so good actually, and he's not a friend of bringing crazy things. He had some mental issues. I mean, to stay consistent and to be able to play to his own strengths before, but I think he he made it through actually, and he's way better as being consistent for his performances and for his mental. So I really have a lot of expectations for Skins actually. He's a player who goes all in your jungle, all in the ganks, and if he got his listen, you have to watch out for his plays. It's always crazy. I mean, the guy is never uh, he he's never looking to play on on his back seat, and to just watch the game being played. He's a proactive guy. He's a guy who is create the plays. So yeah, I would say watch out for Skins and Seiken, but maybe more particularly for Skins and for his Lee. If he has the opportunity to play Lee, it should be a crazy game for Vitality. And for LDLC, actually, so the MVP of the French league, of the French split was Comp, their Greek AD carry. But I would say the guy is really good, and especially on picks like Kaisa, he can bring some crazy ults, going to the back lanes, trying to snipe the carries, this kind of stuff. But I would say maybe the guy who impressed me the most in LDLC could be still back, because I think that looking at the mechanical standards of supports in Europe, he can be at the top, maybe even if in LEC actually, when he plays some skill shot champions like Trash of this kind of stuff. I mean, he was an IDC before, right? He played for Fnatic during 2015. He went to MSI. He had this crazy best of 5 against SKT back in the days. So I mean, the guy is more skilled than the average support, I would say. And looking at when he goes on skill shot champions, he's really awesome, and he's a really skilled player. He's a really skilled support player, actually. So I would say still back is really crazy, because there are a lot of situations where you would say, yeah, well, maybe a support can have a big impact on this play, but it's not that easy to pull out, But usually, to pull off, but usually, still back can bring those crazy outplays in these moments. So he's a really particular support because he understands how well to play the maps. He likes to fight a lot, and he's more this kind of support like Elisang or Mikix, I would say, that can be really aggressive, really all in, and really clutch on really little situations.
So do you then kind of look at these guys? Because obviously a lot of the people who are playing in European Masters are looking to go to the next step and get towards LEC. So I mean, is there, like, you kind of highlighted Skeens and Seiken and Steel back there? Are these the guys that you expect, this time next year or whatever, whenever it may be, to take that next step up to LEC? Like, do you see them better as some of the talent that's already on display in Berlin?
Well, for it depends about the team. Let's we can talk again about Vitality. The thing for Vitality is that this is the academy for the LEC team.
Yeah.
So the management, of course, should look to make swaps if they think it's the right way, if they think it's the right thing to do. About Vitality, actually, the team has big chances to make it out to playoff in LEC, but I still think some players in the main team could be challenged. For the jungles, I mean, I'm casting LEC also, right? And I think we have been in our crew kind of critics about Mowgli in the jungle. I think he's not that good. He really struggles being consistent. Sometimes he can miss some really easy combos in really easy situations. I can remember about his plays on Jarvan being really lackluster, and I mean he's through some situations I couldn't even believe it. So actually, I still don't understand. I mean, I still don't understand that Vitality didn't give a shot to skins for the main team. So maybe it will be for the next year, but I'm really waiting for them to try something with skins. Seiken, he has already played in the LEC team when, I mentioned this episode before, but when Jizuke had some health problem, Seiken was brought in, and actually he did a great job because he had kind of no preparation with the main team, and they went 1-1 in this week, so it was quite good actually, and he managed to kind of, I mean, he did not carry the whole game, but he did his part of the job on the split push duty with Rise. So I think Skins and Seiken actually could be try out in the main team. I was talking with Trayton, the support for Vitality Bee, because he came to our studio to cast the Vitality team on Saturday, I think, for LEC, and I had the opportunity to talk to him, and he told me, and I even think, for example, Toaster, the ADC, could have a shot actually in the main team. Attila is good, but I think Toaster can bring some other things. So for Vitality, I really believe we can have some swaps. I mean, some tests from Vitality B to Vitality LEC. And about other players in LDLC, of course, you know, Steelback and Joko, for example, they are coming from LCS EU last year, so their plan is to go back to LEC. They would prefer to play together in the main team because they have developed a great synergy, and as a support and a jungler, I think having a synergy and being able to be aggressive together and to know when you can play around the map together is really important. So it can be it could be a good investment to bring Joko and Steelback together for LEC team. A guy like Aka, for example, I will not say that he will be among the best on the mid lane in LEC because it's really stacked, but the guy is really smart about how to play the game, when to be aggressive, when to be defensive. He has a lot of champions, actually. He can play a lot of champions. So I think Aka could be he could be a good player, maybe not your star player, you know, but maybe more your supportive and well-rounded mid laner that can be the backbone of your team, you know, maybe not the leader of the caps of your team, but you have different profile of mid laners, so why not? And Comp actually is a really good ADC. Why not trying him actually in LEC? I think it could be right. So I think when we think about the next year for LFL, we tend to think in our casting crew that it will be a more difficult year because we should see a lot of our talents going into LEC. So yeah, I do believe a lot of our players will have the right or the opportunity to try LEC next year.
expectation that, like you just said, most of your entire talented players are going to be leaving.
Yeah.
What are the expectations now for EU Masters Summer? Because you've won the last one, but it wasn't easy. It was definitely not the way people thought France were going to win it. Misfits Premier making it from the bottom all the way to the top. But what are the expectations? Are we expecting 2 French teams in the semifinals? Is it a kind of a bad season or a bad split if we don't see a French team in the final? What are your expectations for these teams coming into the summer finals?
I would say actually yes. Not winning the whole thing would be a deception, but I mean, well, it's a final, so you never know. Between 2 teams with kind of equal strength, it could be each or either way. So, well, final is a best of 5, and we'll see. But not having a team in the final will be bad actually for LFL. I mean, at least we have to defend our title. It won't be a Misfits Premier, but we have to defend our title. That's how things should go. I think LDLC should really make it through the group stage, through the playoffs, and until the finals. For Vitality Bee, I'm more puzzled, because as I told you, the team can be really good in early game, but they really struggle during mid game with those Baron plays, how to play around the map, how to rotate and find the good opportunity to push out the turrets. And actually, but they are good in team fight. So when they lack about macro, they can find some good opportunity to team fight. But I would say I'm less sure about the performance of Team Vitality actually. Whether they figure out how to play the mid game in the good way for their team or not. It could be the big factor for them to make the top 4, because actually, looking at the early game, I'm pretty sure they are at the top of the table, even better than Team LDLC actually. But they struggle so much in mid game that it's frustrating when you cast them. You see them doing their crazy plays in early game. You see Seiken and Skins going all in, and the guys are often up something like 5k, 6k, 7k gold, and they go they go to the Baron time, and they just struggle to do it in a proper way. So finally, they manage to find team fights and they win the game, but it's kind of messy, and it shouldn't be that messy. Looking at how good they can be during the early games, and looking at the advantages they tend to build during the early game. So I would say if Vitality Bee can fix their problems in mid games, and if they can find the right way to set up these Baron plays and to set up these map plays, I think the team should be top 4 actually, because they got the talents, and with the mid jungle relationship, I'm pretty sure they can beat kind of every team in the early game. But once again, early game is not the main problem in Vitality Bee. The main problem is the mid game. Going to the mid game and to see them struggle on little situation is really frustrating. For LDLC, I would say they should be the best team going into European Masters. I think they will have contenders, but actually, I think they should be the best team. But sometimes they can be really challenged in the early game. But there's I would not say that they are the right opposite of Vitality Bee, because LDLC is still a good team in early game, right? But not the best team. But the thing is, their mid game, their capacity to stall out the game, to control, to trap the opponents, and to make them asleep actually until 25 minutes. Their capacity is really big on this point of the game. So I think macro-wise, they should be the best team in European Masters, but they can really be challenged in early game. So it's up to the other teams to kind of find the good way to shake things up in early game against LDLC, and right after early game to make sure that you can conclude on Baron Nashor, on this kind of thing, because LDLC are really good to turn things around and to come back during mid game.
We'll summarize it of LDLC should be winning the whole thing, but Team Vitality B, if they make it to semifinals, top 4, they'll be pretty damn happy. I have one last question, and then Rob can ask any other question he likes. I always end up with my last question, and then anyone else can answer theirs. So if we do get a Team LDLC versus Vitality B at any point in the tournament, be it quarters or finals, whatever way it is, who will you be supporting? Because I do see a Team Vitality jersey on you right now. So I'm kind of thinking, like, which one would you prefer to win? Who are you going to be secretly holding, kind of like, I hope this team wins?
Actually, I wear a Team Vitality jersey, but I also have a Team LDLC jersey, but it's at the office. So well,
a very good excuse. That's good. They'll accept that excuse.
Yeah. But the thing is, actually, I really like both teams. I know the players from both teams, so I'm not sure who I would root for. Actually, I'm not even sure that I prefer one of those teams. I like both, and both have different play style, as I told you before. So I'm not sure who I would root for. If I have to root for the team which should be the best chance for France, I think it should be LDLC once again. But I think Vitality has not reached their final ceiling, So if they fix their problem, honestly, if they fix their problem mid game, they can be a contender for the title, actually. But I'm not sure they will. I'm not sure they can. But if they manage to fix them, they can be a contender for the title. Even if actually, I think, looking at the team nowadays, top 4 will be really good for them. It will be really good, and for LDLC, they must aim for the final title. But I would say the best chance should be LDLC. So maybe I would root for LDLC during a best of between those teams, but it's not because I prefer LDLC. It's because I think they will have the more chances to bring the title to France.
Well, I'm happy with that. Rob, I'll let you ask any other follow-up questions. But if Team Vitality beat Team LDLC, then we know who to clip and send back to the Twitters. But yeah, thank you. I'm gonna let Rob finish it off.
Yeah, my last question is just if you think it is going to be, you're allowed one French team in the finals, but who do you think is going to be there with you? Which region, which team? Who do you think is going to be paired with you in the finals?
Well, as I told you, I think actually let me check let me check once again the lineup for wait for team Fnatic Rising. I think I really like the lineup for team Fnatic Rising because they have two French-speaking guys, Bando, who had just brought him just recently, and NG in the jungle, who is a really good player. And they have Magi Felix mid, who I think should be the next generation of really great, talented mid-European player. So actually, I mean, I think the teams from the German region are quite good, but I would say in the final against LDLC, either Fnatic Rising or maybe Big from Germany. These are the two teams that I would expect in the final. Actually, not sure about Rogue Academy. I have to check the lineup once again. They're playing with they have Selfie, EQ. It's a good team actually. It's a good team. But I'm not sure. I mean, I would see them top 4, but I will not place my bet on them for the final. For the final, I will more go either for big or for Fnatic Rising.
All right, well, we'll have to see how it goes. Thank you very much for joining us, Chips. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you and finding out more about the LFL. But that's going to be everything for this afternoon. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and I hope you have a great rest of the evening. Catch you later.